We're just seconds away from the start of My Two Cents. Today's topic, the Black family. You don't want to miss it. We've got a jam-packed discussion, including myself, Sean Gables, as well as Cora Daniels, the author of a brand new book, and Reverend Eric Turner. We'll be right back.
I'm Ryan Smith, and welcome to Your Two Cents. This is the segment of the show where we go out into the community and get your opinion on issues that matter. We're here at B. Braxton's Grooming Salon right here in Manhattan, New York City, right here in Harlem. And I've got a great panel of guests with us to talk. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I've got Abiola Abrams right next to me, host of BETJ's Best Shorts program, also director, producer, done many, many films.
Right.
Great to have
having
you.
me, Ryan.
Kari Campbell, director of business operations for Scheme Magazine. Welcome. And Dale Coachman, editor-in-chief of Scheme Magazine. Thank you. I want to talk to you today about the Black family. And there's been a lot of talk about the destruction of the Black family these days and how it doesn't exist as it used to, but let me ask you this question. Did the Black family's destruction start with slavery? Were we destroyed to begin with?
I think ever since the Middle Passage, I think once we were brought over here, I believe it was Jamestown, and they began right there separating us from just separating families and you know, this one will go here, that one will go there. Right there, that was pretty much the destruction. And then roles got mixed up as well. You know, the Black male's role disintegrated, the Black woman's role was something else, and so a lot of things, yeah.
So we've been destroyed to begin with. We were never a real cohesive Black family, or at least a lot of our families weren't really together since we've been here, is what you're saying.
I would agree.
Yes, you know, our families were destroyed when we were brought here, but I think that African Americans tried for a very long time and Afro-Caribbeans to hold their families together. And I think it's only probably within the past maybe 20, 30 years post-civil rights movement that we've seen like a real destruction where there isn't, you know, any longer like a kind of people trying to hold the family together. Because there are two different ways of looking at it. You could look at it and say we were destroyed when we got here, or you could look at it and say, okay, you know, so many people died in the Middle Passage, and so many people died during slavery, and then so many people, you know, died by hangings and other, you know, means like that, that those of us who are still surviving are the strongest of the strongest of the strong, that our genes are super strong. So there are two kinds of ways to look at it.
But even within that strength, are we really keeping it together? Well, Kari, let me...
Well, I think we're a challenge because you look at it even when you're on the Middle Passage, they didn't intertwine the tribes so that the dialects couldn't communicate. As you got more into slavery, the male was taken out of the mix and split from the family because his role originally was to be a provider and protector of the family. When you take that ability away from him, it brings down his self-esteem. Then you have the female stepping in to assume that role. And I think that's led to a lot of our Black communities, especially earlier times, the community had to come together and raise a family, raise a child.
Right.
And we're seeing that destruction in the neighborhoods. So we're really fighting to get back to it. But before, your extended family helped raise you as your own family.
Right.
Your friend down the street, your cousins, they all raised you. Because going back to slavery, the family's torn apart and we had to depend on each other.
I grew up in a neighborhood where we did have that structure, where we had Black families around the neighborhood. You do something wrong down the block, your mom is going to hear about it by the time you get home. And a lot of times I see in the media and in the press that the Black family is dying out and there's no support system. Is it really true that there's nothing? I mean, to me it seems that slavery tore us apart, but we've done a lot to bring ourselves back together.
We have. I think that there's a shifting now in terms of Black family, and I think that why we might be seeing those statistics more in the media is that if you look at stats of who's getting married, it's something like 80% of Black households, like 70 to 80% are single parent households.
Being raised in a single household by my mother, but she also had this well-knit family. It was my grandmother, my aunts, my mother's girlfriend, so it was everybody that pretty much raised me. And then there were stints of, you know, insertions of Black males within that. that gave me things along the way. There is a sense of family there, but as far as that being prominent and relevant, you really don't see that. You see, like, you hear people get on the bus, and the kids are acting a fool.
Right.
And you don't know, you're like, well, where does that come from? And it comes from the home, but the problem is when you have kids raising kids.
Right.
Do you say something when you're on the bus and kids are acting a fool? Because I want to say something, but these kids are kind of scary sometimes. But you do want to say something.
It's even when you have a parent and they're walking with their child, and their child's acting up, but you don't see the parent do anything. And then you're like, and everybody here, if that was my child.
Okay, so we're talking about you need that support system. You got to have that group. It takes a village to raise a child. What about the families that are making it happen that just live in their own family structure in their particular neighborhood?
I think it's a balance. I was raised in the suburbs back in Massachusetts. Sure, and I even went to a private school, but my mom always made sure I had that cultural part as well. So from K through 8, it was public, and I got all of it. I got the diversity, I got different cultures. But then from 8 through 12, it was predominantly white private school. Mm-hmm. But she made sure we went to museums and we went to festivals and we went to everything. So I still had that balance and actually remember where I came from.
I had a very similar experience to you, and it was the same thing where, okay, from, maybe Monday to Friday, I was there with Becky and, Molly and whoever, but on the weekends, it's like, you're a chocolate girl from Guyana,
Yeah.
and I don't care what's happening Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 3:30, because right now you're in my house, and we're gonna do things a little bit differently and culturally, and, it's the exposure, it goes back again to the parents, I guess.
Right.
And then, talking about it takes a village, that the village would be us, that we need to step in when we see people acting out on the bus and stuff like that.
It's a struggle for us, but the black family is still alive and well, and it's growing, and we have to keep supporting it.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna keep getting into this off camera, but we're gonna put it back to the studio, talk a little bit more about the black family there. Stay with us.
Welcome, everyone, to VETJ's My Two Cents. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall, and joining me are my co-hosts, Breon Bain, Sean Gables, and our special guest today, Reverend Eric Turner. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We always do a lot of talking in our breaks and in between, and we agree, we disagree. But we were talking also about the black family, its structure. I know you're doing a lot of work with that in terms of your dissertation.
Correct.
But really, what is the history of the black family? And there's been talk about, multiple marriages and cultural differences. When do we approve and disapprove? I just have to tell you, I got one man for now. It's more than enough, okay?
Sure.
I don't know how you feel, but really some say that even in African culture or different religions, is it okay? And especially as times are changing a lot. Some people are choosing not to marry at all, and then others may want a multiple marriage.
I think that when you look at statistics and you see the rising rate of divorce rates, I think that alone sets a lot of fear for anyone to just want to become married to just one person. I mean, I'm married for the second time being hopefully the most successful one. But I think that when you hear people not choosing to get married, choosing to cohabitate instead of making a commitment or a vow, or those who choose not to be in a relationship at all. I think that hearing about divorce rates, especially my being a Christian, and I know that you're a pastor,
Sure.
we have the highest divorce rate than those in the outside of the church. And I think it sets a very dangerous precedent, and people are afraid.
Well, and do those true numbers really speak to how successful a marriage is anyway? Because sometimes you can have the picket fence and you can have the nice house, but yet you can have a marriage or relationship that's crumbling.
I think first going into looking at the whole structure of the marriage,